The gospel begins, Jesus had always loved his own, and now he loved them to the end. Love, charity, is the theme of Holy Thursday. Love, charity. What is the hymn that always brings to mind Holy Thursday whenever we hear it? Where charity and love prevail, there is God. Or the updated version, or maybe the predated version, where charity is true, where it's authentic, there is God. Love, charity, truth. Holy Thursday. Jesus showed his love for us by giving us his body and blood in the Eucharist, and also on Holy Thursday he gave us the beautiful gift of ordained priesthood. He gave us a sacrament and sacramental persons. He chose to have priests relate to himself and the Father and the Holy Spirit on behalf of men in all things concerning God. That's the responsibility of the priest. To relate to God on behalf of all things concerning God. That's the responsibility that priests have for souls. It's very serious. But along with that serious responsibility comes the joy of being caught up in the charity, the love, and the truth of God himself. And giving us his body and blood, anticipating his death on the cross, what did Jesus do with the first bishops of the church to explain this love, this charity which is true? Before he ordained them, he gave them a conference. And the conference was the washing of the feet. Being caught up in the charity, truth, and love of God means being a good foot washer. In a way, it's that simple. Jesus, in washing the feet of the apostles, first of all, he humbled himself. And in order for the apostles to follow him, they had to allow him to humble himself. They had to accept his humility. Peter didn't want any part of it, the one on whom the church was to be built. He wanted no part of the humility of Christ. He said, "You'll never do this." And Jesus said, "Oh yes, I will, or you're finished with me." To get caught up in the charity, truth, and love of God We have to allow God to humble himself in taking on a human nature, to empty himself out. We have to learn how to glory in the cross. We have to learn how to find beauty in the cross. And it's the resurrection power of Jesus Christ that enables us to find that beauty. So if we're going to be authentic people of the Eucharist, authentically caught up in the charity and love and truth of Christ, we gotta be good foot washers. Being good foot washers means, for married couples with children, coming home every night and never doing what you want. Some married couples wash feet. I see couples in this church, they haven't gone home at night and done what they really felt like within memory. They do what they want to do by God's grace. They make all the sacrifices necessary to have a happy family. And that takes an awful lot of sacrifices. They're very excellent foot washers. I look over here at the seminarians. What do they have to do? Seminaries are usually pretty big places these days, thank God. Good number of people there. It's absolutely impossible to like all of your fellow seminarians. That's due to original sin. We don't blame them for that. We blame Adam and Eve. And I still look forward, if it's going to be possible, if I see them in the afterlife, I want to punch the two of them out before I say a single word, because they deserve far worse than that for the mess in which we find ourselves. But every so often, by the luck of the draw, when your cleverness fails, you wind up right across that other person that you don't like very much at dinner in the seminary. That's the invitation to wash his feet. Make nice. Give it your best shot. We have to do that a lot in the priesthood. We're a large group of men. And because of original sin, no large group of men is really going to like all the others. But we got to love them. We got to be good foot washers. And the priests and the bishop too frequently have someone come to us and tell us how, if we've ever done anything right ever, they have never seen it. If we have ever done one thing right, it is the best kept secret in the whole world. And that is an invitation for us to wash their feet. And without being good foot washers, it's impossible to be caught up in the charity and love and truth of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Where charity and love are, there is God. And where they aren't, their God is not. If we're not caught up into that charity, truth, and love, that God offers to us, stretching his arms out on the cross, then we can't do what we're going to do in a little while tonight. We're going to walk with Christ into the darkness. If we're not caught up in the truth and love and charity of Christ, we're afraid to go out into the dark, as Jesus was in his human nature. Let this cup pass from me. He didn't want to go out there in the dark. But his charity and love for us overcame every human fear that he had. And from another point of view, he knew that the resurrection was a sure thing, but that it wasn't going to come without the power of darkness unleashing everything it had on Jesus Christ. He took every bit of horror and pain that the power of darkness had to offer. He took it all upon himself. So much did he love us. So perfect was his freedom. We're going to take that walk with Jesus into the dark later on. And it's a very good time to ask ourselves, do I understand what I am doing? Do I understand what happened to Jesus? Do I understand that when I walk with him into the darkness, he may well not save me from the powers of darkness any more than his Father saved him? His Father didn't save him from the power of darkness. He handed him over to it completely. When we go into the darkness tonight with Christ, during that procession, that's what we're thinking. Am I ready to go out with him into the darkness? Am I ready to take whatever the darkness has to offer? We know that only if we can let go of ourselves and be free of ourselves and of our own interests, that we, with Jesus, like Jesus, can go out in the darkness and suffer under its dominion for the sake of others whom we love. When we go out into the darkness with Christ, perfectly willing to suffer out there with him, like him, for the good and for the salvation of others, then we are the best foot washers in the universe. And that's what the grace of the resurrection of Jesus Christ gives us the strength and the wisdom and the power to be. As we receive the body and blood of Christ tonight in the Holy Eucharist, let's accept that wisdom and that power. Let's make sure we renew our commitment to be caught up in the great love and charity, the great truth of God himself, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Praise be Jesus Christ.